It is pretty public knowledge that a number of game companies are facing a reckoning that's been a long time coming due to their long-time culture of harassment, abuse, bullying, discrimination, you name it. Chief among them are Ubisoft and Blizzard, especially, we have heard plenty of horror stories about. And now joining the fray is yet another company, Paradox Interactive, a company that is a bit more niche, but still are known for some pretty prominent game franchises like Stellaris, Europa Universalis, Crusader Kings, and Hearts of Iron, these grand strategy games, and actually had covered Paradox in the past, specifically in regards to Europa Universalis 4 and how its Leviathan DLC released in such a rough and unfinished state that it straight up became the worst user-rated piece of digital content on Steam. It's straight up the worst user-reviewed game on the platform right now. That is certainly one trophy you don't want to win, and now they find themselves embroiled in controversy once again, as a recent employee survey has conveyed that many employees within the company have faced harassment, bullying, discrimination, and now they're finding themselves, well, amidst those companies that have proven to be negligent about the treatment of their employees, about the culture at their company, about ensuring a safe and adequate work environment. The results of the survey were conveyed by Swedish news outlet Break It, and for those who don't know, Paradox is a Swedish company. I cannot read Swedish, but we'll skip right ahead to this games industry article that translated and paraphrased the information conveyed there. And the headline speaks for itself. Employee survey at Paradox Interactive alleges gender discrimination and mistreatment. There is a culture of bullying and gender discrimination at Paradox Interactive, as relayed by a survey conducted in August by two Swedish union groups, Unionen, and then I don't know how this reads. Now, Paradox Interactive employs around over 400 people, and 133 of those employees, about a third of the employees, took the survey, and of those employees, 44% who took part in the survey within this 133 employees have experienced mistreatment at the company. That is certainly a significant percentage, and that's not a good sign, and one has to wonder what the results would be if you surveyed all of the employees at the company. Of the 133 employees, 26% of the participants were female employees, and within that, around 69% of those female employees said that they had experienced abusive treatment. So around 35 employees of the 133 who took part in the survey are female employees, and within that 35 employees, the majority had experienced some form of abusive treatment, some form of harassment and discrimination. And on top of that, a significant portion of male staff have also reported to have experienced abusive treatment. 33% among the larger percentage of male staff said that they felt mistreated. So we got a larger sample size of males because I believe this company is mostly comprised of males. Within that male sample size, a minority, but still a significant portion, about a third of them have reported to have been mistreated. Whereas with females, they make up a minority of Paradox Interactive, and within that group, the majority have said that they didn't feel safe at the company or that they weren't treated properly. And taking into account both males and females, we're looking at roughly 44% of 133 participants who experienced some form of mistreatment. Just really bad numbers and optics all around. Obviously, there's an issue within this company, and this is what the survey report concluded. Offensive treatment is a systematic and far too common problem at Paradox. Once this report got out there, once employees saw this, the company sent out an email to all of their employees stating that the company is now in the process of bringing in an external neutral company to conduct a thorough review of our process and a comprehensive employee survey. I'm always apprehensive about companies bringing in external and what they claim to be neutral companies to conduct an investigation or whatever, kind of like how Activision Blizzard and CEO Bobby Kotick tried to make themselves look good by saying, hey, we're going to hire this firm, WilmerHale, that will conduct an investigation. You can speak to them. It's completely safe and whatever. But it turns out WilmerHale is a union-busting firm that has a long track record of defending companies, and that's what they're there for, not to protect the employees, not to make sure that they have a safe haven to be able to speak and ensure that the right people are held accountable. Hiring WilmerHale was all about self-preservation for Activision Blizzard executives. It was not about trying to make progress or whatever fluffy dialogue they'll put out there. So I guess we'll see which neutral company Paradox ends up hiring, what kind of track record that company has, and what that says about Paradox's priorities, whether it truly is about protecting employees and bettering the work culture, or if it's more about self-preservation for Paradox and its higher-ups. Now, that statement was from an internal email. News outlets also reached out to Paradox about the situation for any kind of comment, and this is the response that Paradox provided to PC Gamer here, as well as a number of other outlets. Obviously, the results of this survey are deeply concerning. The management team wants to ensure this data is acted upon, but taking immediate, direct action is legally difficult thanks to the informal nature of the survey, which is not to say it's being dismissed out of hand by any means. As stated to Break It, we decided last week to have an independent company run an audit of our processes to report and handle cases of discrimination and harassment. Again, it comes down to whatever company you hire, what kind of history do they have, and will they actually make sure that the right people are brought to justice, that they suffer the consequences that they should have been suffering. We'll also have them run a comprehensive survey to provide us with clearly defined and actionable data that we can use to make impactful change. At this point, we're in the process of hiring an independent and neutral firm that specializes in this process. Now, I'm not going to look at this and give Paradox any kind of standing ovation or any kind of applause or a pat on the back. They, no doubt, were well aware about all of this, and it's only now that other companies are facing reckoning from their culture of harassment and discrimination that they're finally starting to seem like they're being proactive, whether they actually are being proactive and we actually do see positive change happen. That remains to be seen. But employees reported that the company had a culture of silence, with almost zero employees feeling as though their treatment had been properly handled. So this means that employees have definitely reported on all of this, and Paradox actively and consciously decided to ignore the feedback, ignore the reports, decided to ultimately not do anything about the mistreatment and let the abusers do what they want. Now, one interesting development that happened a few days prior to the survey report spotlighting the culture of bullying and discrimination at Paradox was that Paradox CEO Ebba Lungerud left the company back on September 2nd, citing different views on company strategy. And a lot of people are finding it an interesting coincidence that the CEO leaves just a few days before this report comes out, which has led to some people wondering whether this was the CEO taking a parachute and jumping ship or jumping plane, knowing the shitstorm that's going to hit the company because of this survey. Taking her place is former CEO of Paradox, Frederick Wester, and when asked whether there was a connection between the previous CEO leaving just a few days before the reports of bullying and harassment and discrimination came out, according to Kotaku's reporting, CEO Frederick Wester denied that there was any connection between the results of the survey and her decision to go. But according to news outlet Break It, at the very least, the former CEO, she did see the report before she left. Either it's a very unfortunate coincidence or the CEO is fleeing the scene of the crime. But let's not forget about her just because she wasn't technically the CEO of the company when the survey's report finally came out. The fact remains that under her leadership, all this stuff, all this culture of harassment, abuse, bullying, discrimination was allowed to happen under her watch, and she certainly has a lot to answer for as well. But yeah, another day, another company whose leadership doesn't give a shit about the human lives that they're responsible for. But at the very least, the exposure of companies like Ubisoft and Blizzard has paved the road for this topic of abusive work environments within the games industry to really take off. And a lot of companies now, it would seem as though they're running scared of the kind of backlash and potential legal ramifications they might face. And we're seeing more of these reports come out. We're seeing employees being less afraid to speak out. We are seeing a lot of these awful stories that were open secrets within companies now come to the surface. And we are seeing this movement happening, pushing for better treatment of employees, the people who actually make the games that we enjoy. And the hope is that we can keep this trend going until companies are forced to capitulate to the demands of employees who deserve much better treatment than what we're seeing now, today, and what we have seen for the past couple of decades even. Or at least that's one man's take on everything. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the survey report regarding Paradox Interactive's abusive work culture. Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.